This is Joyce.
digital night. Jim Russell, he's guiding the light.
Yes, sir.
Unveiling mysteries of the unknown.
Yes, sir.
UFOs in the alien zone. Oh yeah. Jim Russell, he's a man on a mission. Exploring ancient secrets, it's his addiction. Debating, discussing with his loyal crew. Constant conversations, unveiling the truth.
Fuck yeah. We're still working on that transition. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. Yes, thank you, Divinormous, once again for making these sick AI songs. There's a rap one, too, that I've been trying to end things with. Here, we'll get some background music going. Thanks, dude, again. Yes. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. Here we are once more. Here the world goes into strange times. Time and again, you know. Cover that a little bit. UFOs over Canada. 27,000-year-old pyramid. Something is playing in the background now. What is playing in the background? Oh, there we go. Everything just refreshed for some reason. Yes, Gunam Padang is a pyramid, and some interesting insights that Uncharted X had brought into the discovery, I guess. Ancient Secrets, Factory Farming Burns. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. We'll cover that. And Remote Viewing, The Edge of Reality. Thought we covered that as well. So, yeah, interesting times, these. Yes. Interesting things going on. That's for sure. For people watching these VODs, thank you. I still see people watching these VODs. Again, a good amount of people watching them, almost to completion. So thank you. Thank you. Trying to get to 300 followers now. I had toned it down a little bit, you know. Yeah. All support is greatly appreciated. And if anybody's not following, please follow. Trying to get up there. These VODs are on YouTube, and yeah, I still need to put it on the screen, don't I? Shit, I forgot to do that. I will do that though. I'll put it like in some really obnoxious place and like a massive number, and I'll leave it up there until I get to the number I want. 1,000 would be sick, but hey, you know, can't always get what we want, you know. Yes, yeah, you can find. Down below, Naaman. Yeah. I got my links. I got my Instagram, which I usually just post pictures of my dog and food, and then the YouTube channel. I've been trying to fuck around with what I can do maybe on the YouTube channel, like some IRL stuff. So, but I'm posting these VODs and clips of the VODs on there. So, yeah, you can check that out. But, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. You get what you need. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Anyway, I'll start to get into this a little bit. We might as well. Here we are. What did I have? A couple things pulled up here. I thought this was great, actually. I reposted it. I didn't realize that. Oh well, fucking good enough. $31 for 6 bananas, 2 pounds of clementines, half a bag of grapes, and a pack of blueberries. It might last for 2 days, says Jeff. Imagine a single mom with 2 or 3 kids. How is she feeding them? The hat is approved as well, Jeff. I noticed you just slipped that hat in there. That's crazy times here all around the world. It's not just Canada dealing with inflation right now, but in Canada it's particularly bad in a lot of different ways. So, fuck, man. You know, I feel the burn. You know, I feel the burn. People are just stealing. That's what's happening. We're going back to the olden times, like just grabbing stuff off shelves. You know. Not encouraging that, but you know, if the blueberries are fucking is that $7.99? Oh man. Self-checkout chicken stock. You know? That's all I'm gonna fucking say. Self-checkout chicken stock. Mr. Beast did a Lex Friedman interview like a year ago that just watched, and just some hot takes on building following. Oh, cool. Yeah, he's probably a good guy to reference, actually, isn't he, Digi? He just tirelessly just posted videos of himself as a young lad. But yeah, I should probably look into that a little more. Yeah. That's exactly... You're still paying for something, though, Hendrix. That's the thing. You're still giving them money. It's just not that much money, right? Not that amount. Just a different amount that you think might be a little bit more reasonable. right? You want to get a big bag of cashews and they're charging like $10 for fucking like, 100 grams. Chicken stock, 5 cents. No, don't actually do that. They all have cameras now. Anyway. Oh, fuck. This makes me angry. Steve Freeland claims the carbon tax is revenue neutral. The money goes right back into the pockets of Canadians. No, it fucking doesn't. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. I can calculate how much the gas has gone up and how much gas I put in my car, and the fucking like $80 you guys put in my account didn't even cover that. Not even close to it. I can imagine these fucking boys and girls driving around these big fucking lifted trucks, right? These gas guzzlers. That $90 isn't going very far, right? So, yeah, it's revenue neutral. Then what the fuck is the point of doing it? It's virtue signaling? Idiot. Oh, fuck, they're idiots. Oh, this, yes. This was, I'll just read it here. Yeah. You are the carbon they want to reduce. This is the quote that Jordan had here. Don't lie to yourself, Stucker Carlson. He says, if you believe people are the problem, then that is, of course, a genocidal spirit. If I believe that the problem with my kitchen is it has too many mice, the solution is to kill the mice. Too many roaches, I'll kill the roaches. That's the problem. They're the impediment. And so make no mistake, and this sort of tracks with what I was saying earlier, don't lie to yourself about the agenda. If people are the problem and you're a person, then your life is in the way of whatever goals they're seeking to achieve by definition. Am I missing something? No, I'm not. But all of us, it's so grotesque because, to further elaborate on one sentence, it's a demonic spirit. Just to be clear, any spirit that seeks to hurt, kill, divide, or demoralize other people is a demonic spirit by definition. Exactly right. So that's what animates it. You're the target, and don't lie to yourself. And again, he said, you are the carbon that they want to reduce, ultimately. And that is a narrative, hard thing to contend with, and it's hard to pin down these people and who really is behind this rhetoric, because so many people at the WEF and the UN and kind of dissociated with the whole globalist movement, I don't know if they actually believe like that the population needs to be lower. I'm assuming probably the people behind this narrative who really believe that are kind of behind the scenes, which is then impossible to, pull them out. It's called fifth generation warfare. Oops, I hit the space bar. Fifth generation warfare, which means the enemy isn't out, obviously, in the open for everyone to see, right? There's no Hitler, there's no Stalin, there's no Mao. There's no person that you can look to that's the problem. If there ever really was, it's now people kind of hiding in the shadows, obscured, obfuscated, right? Putting people out, putting bad puppets out now as well. And it's just very frustrating. And we're kind of guided on intuition, pulling this all apart, which is also frustrating. But fairly well educated intuition at this point. Just can't really nail down who is the problem. But more than likely just the classic human problem, which is a bunch of hyper wealthy people who are very smart, who just feel like they're above everybody else. And isn't that our problem everywhere on Earth, time and again, is this happening? 3 years and anyway, speaking of which, people getting fed up. And now Paris, I'm going to adjust the music slightly. There we go. Paris is joining the fray, so is the UK. The farmers are protesting. They're tired of all these bullshit taxes. They're tired of all of these dictates from these, Machiavellian, fucking psychopathic politicians who have been squeezing us, right, over this whole climate scandal, essentially. And, I've been covering this a little bit more. I've just been talking about this because it's something I'm passionate about, because it's different than environmentalism. It's a different kind of movement. And I think Jordan just kind of aptly put it that ultimately where the narrative goes is that you were the carbon they want to reduce, because they can talk about there's too many cows, there's too many chickens, right? There's too much food being grown is the narrative John Kerry is literally talking about in front of people. Right? And it leads to, consequently, there's too many people. And they're very hesitant to say that publicly. But they've effectively, when you go out and you tell everyone that we're growing too much food, like, what are you trying to say? When you tell people that these farmers, when you try and put a dictate down on them to say you cannot use nitrogen in your fertilizers anymore, and when that is responsible for like doubling the crop yields, it's like, well, you're effectively saying that there are too many people. There are too many mouths to feed. That's effectively what's being said. When objectively there aren't, and we know there aren't. There's been tons of smart people that did the math on this. The problem is things are, there's a group of people that are losing control of the narrative. And that's just, this is good to see. The consequence of their actions is the people actually in control, which are the people that actually grow the food for everyone, are finally standing up and they've had enough. So, I mean, everybody all over Europe, and I know in North America as well, there's truckers going down to the southern border there. And then in Canada too, there was another like little trucker get together I saw that they were doing. So, but this is a big deal. Like, this is no joke. Like, they're starting to arrest people now. Like, they were digging up the fucking highways and stuff in France. I wonder if I can find, did he hashtag this? Maybe not. Here's just I think it's just a still. Yeah, just showing everybody. Let's see, France farmers. See if we can find here. Here's a video here of them starting to arrest people. Like, there's a bunch of people that they're trying. There's a bunch. Like, it's but they were digging up the road, digging up the highway actually, and then they were dumping stuff, burning material on the highway, just to try and get people's attention. I think, because ultimately, that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to get everybody out, just to try and highlight that if some of these mandates go through, right, some of these laws get passed, the taxes get raised unsustainably, it's going to affect food production. And the consequence of that, which isn't going to be immediately obvious, is that that's going to impact the price of the food on the shelves, but even possibly availability of food on the shelves. We've already seen the food prices almost double. Like, the meat prices in Costco, right? I used to buy a lot of chicken, right? It's still up like $10 more minimum, right? And that's at a box store. If you go to like the regular grocery stores around here, it is sitting at about double the price that it was, and it has not come down. And to think it's going to come down, no, it's just going to get worse. And if they keep squeezing people, and this is the nefarious part of all of this, is that it's this slow burn, it's this slow squeeze, right? And it's just, people may realize too late what's going on. This is another thing that pissed me off. Was so the net zero tax means vineyards will also go bankrupt too. So the imported wine was essentially cheaper and more lucrative than wine being grown in France. And we have the same issue going on in different countries with meat, where in the US and in Canada actually imported meat. There was a ridiculous article, and they were importing meat out of some Western African country, and it was more affordable than the meat grown literally in the same city. This guy he took a picture of it at the grocery store. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, and again, is this intentional? Is that intentional? I don't know. But it's a warning sign that you can't put any more pressure on people with these ridiculous climate edicts. Like, it's not worth it. It's even Trudeau putting a carbon tax on the gas when gas was sitting still almost twice the price that it was, right? So when he implemented that carbon tax here in Canada, gas was like at 180 something. And, let's say in 2017, it was at around like 95 cents. So it's sitting at literally double the price. And he puts a carbon tax on top of it that's like 10 cents. It's like, you can't be that stupid. Like, you can't be that stupid. Well, he decided that it was a narrative, and that narrative was fabricated. Truth's gonna leak, and shit's gonna hit the sand. Maybe, man. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. Maybe, so are they trying to implode things then, right? Is that what they're really trying to do? They're trying to pull it all down, burn it all down. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to. The scary thing is that maybe like literally no one's in control, right? Oh, this music's getting kind of weird now. I'll move over to some other music. Maybe no one's really in, and that probably is really what's going on. Obviously, I really don't think there's a group of advanced extraterrestrials guiding humanity here, like the David I think that's all fucking nonsense. I think probably it's all just a goddamn mess. And there's a couple people that maybe are sitting atop of the pile that are trying to hold it together, and they're just losing control. But anyway, this was fucked. So speaking of this, talking about the potential reality that there are in fact bad people still out in the world in influential positions. To what degree will they go to achieve their plans? And this is where we get into maybe a little bit of naivety in the general public. Within these intelligence agencies, like, would they go to this degree to start attacking food production, or would they start doing things like this? And it's to some. I think it might be to do. I think most people are good, and most people, because they're good, just don't really want to consider sometimes that there is bad out there, and to what degree they may go, right, to get to their goals. And so this has been really suspicious. Multiple chicken farms have been set ablaze in the last 24 hours. I think it's like 3 or maybe 4 now. Accusations of domestic terrorism are flying. This happened a year ago with beef farms. There were some accusations thrown around then as well, where there was a certain group of people that was advertising some lab grown meat, technically it's artificial meat, and that individual is quite a sketchy guy and has said lots of sketchy things and implied a lot of sketchy things. That person would of course be Bill Gates, the infamous Bill Gates. Now, is Bill going around burning chicken farms? Probably not, right? But could there be dark forces at work, at play here? I would assume probably there is. Are they burning the chicken farms, though? Well, that's what we don't know. And this is where you get into the whole 5th generation warfare narrative, that the enemy is just, you can't pin them down. And they're taking advantage of the naivety and maybe the intelligence agencies or just in the general public, in that they don't want to consider that maybe all of this stuff isn't an accident. Even in regards to what just happened a couple of years ago, was that really an accident? Twitch still doesn't allow you to talk about that shit, and that's a hard thing to contend with, because if it wasn't an accident, then unfortunately it might have contend with something like that happening again, which for many people, there is enough stress in the world right now, and this just adds on to it. But, our grandparents lived through harder times still, right? Being just pulled out of their bed one day, thrown halfway across the world and dying in the mud alone, right? Having no knowledge really of what the fuck was even going on probably most of the time. They were just fighting some bad man. And, we have the power of wisdom, of knowledge here now, and in that we're able to kind of digest for a moment what's happening, but finding the courage to do so, I guess. Anyway, I'm sure Alex Jones is going to be screaming about this later, so anyway. But kind of fucked. I wonder if these boys have anything to say actually about this. Damn chickens fucking blew right up, bud. I don't know, it's probably bad, but smells some good.
Fighters to actually get into the building. So right now our main focus is just to contain the fire to what is burning right now. And so we'll have fire units on scene for probably several days.
Sir, what are you going to do with all that cooked meat, though? You're not going to waste it. Siri's listening to me while I said that. That's very strange. You're not going to waste all that good meat, though, are you? Jesus Christ. Well, anyway. There he is. There he is. Here, he can buy his fake meat that they had linked to, I think, intestinal cancer or something. Some of the compounds in there. Go get it. Go get it. Now, this is funny as fuck, man. I didn't know that this was a thing. So I wonder if I can find a video to this, because this is properly kind of fucked. So So let's read through here now. So by now, everyone knows Taylor Swift is a government psyop. Didn't know that. And this is exactly why corporate media is having a meltdown about it. 4 years ago, the Pentagon Psychological Operation Unit pitched NATO about turning Taylor Swift into a social influence asset. That is true, apparently. Now, this is the fucked part. In 2019, George Soros bought her entire music catalog. That's true. Rabbit, welcome. Now, George has been... Now, George... Where is George? George Sith. George... I mean, George is like melted ice cream. I don't think George is doing a whole lot these days other than like trying not to just poop his pants, right? I don't think there's a whole lot going on with George. This boy isn't pulling any... He's not pulling any strings because he can't even pull up his pants probably. So, but he had been in the past, and his people have been accused of trying to ferment discord in the United States. Funding all of these radical, groups, just stirring up shit generally. In 2020, she came out as a raging liberal Joe Biden supporter after previously being politically neutral. 2023, her Eras tour raked in higher revenue than the GDP of 50 countries. 2023, she helped register over 35,000 new voters with a single Instagram post, and she's dating a Pfizer and Bud Light agent in the NFL. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Even the New York Times wrote a story of how Biden is courting her for an endorsement and how he wants to appear on stage with her. Oh, fuck, man. I'd pay to see that. That'd be fuck. So we can sniff her. Get a big sniff. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. What's the dumbest shit you've ever seen? This Taylor Swift stuff? Oh, I don't think this is bullshit at all. Absolutely not. 100% not. Fucking Soros and co. bought her entire music catalog. She's a psyop. Well, saying a psyop might be a bit strong, but she's definitely in the pocket of these people now. I think so. Yeah, probably to make billions. Maybe, but either way, I mean, what are their intentions with this, right? I mean, they want Biden to win again. Now, anybody voting for Biden has to be fucking insane. Like, it's crossed the boundary to where you're more insane if you vote for Trump. Like, listen, Trump is equally fucked, but Biden is way, like, the guy is clearly some kind of predator, and the guy has like no brain cells left in his head. So, I mean, the fact she would even align herself with him is very weird. Yeah, it's called business. Do you know who George Soros is, though, Train Beast? I think Taylor's some CIA agent. No. You're misunderstanding this. No. She's not a CIA agent, but the idea is that potentially she's being kind of puppeted around to an end that might not be her own, really. There's a video of her complaining about who bought her music catalog, actually. I was going to pull up, which is George and Co. So, yeah, I hate Benny Johnson as I had. He won't sniffer. She's 25 years too old. That's exactly it. Yeah. Fuck. Oh, God damn it. Yeah. Anyway, this is Pentagon Psychological Operation. It was actually Alicia Marie Barger, research engineer at Johns Hopkins University with no known contract relationship with the UFO military. U.S. military. UFO military. I got UFOs in my brain. Interesting. Yeah, anyway. I find it very interesting that she's as hard as she is on the whole Biden campaign. But yeah, this is, I just posted this. I just wanted to go. She's a very well-spoken woman. I posted this before, but just about rebelling, not complying. Get out if you do not resist. Any alien stuff? Yeah, there's a couple things here, Drunk. I was going to go over in regards to alien stuff. I was going to read this article here. Just give me a second. Oh, so... yeah, it's a video and an article. So this is the thing, UFOs over Canada. So Mick had posted this. This is the article. Pilots over Canada have been reporting mostly Starlink flares as UFOs, including triangles. So Mick just trying to let everybody know that anything that's mentioned in this article is probably just explainable stuff, and it's all bullshit, and everyone's hallucinating, except for Mick. All right. Early on January 19th, several pilots reported multiple lights, sometimes in a triangle formation high above the Canadian prairies. I had a company aircraft over Thunder Bay suggest he thinks it possibly could be satellites. An air traffic controller in Winnipeg told the aviators around 4:45 local time, according to an audio obtained by CTV News. Certainly no expert, but they're moving side to side and then going away from each other and then forming triangles. An Air Canada pilot from Seattle to Winnipeg replied. That doesn't really seem like they're in any type of orbit, but I mean, I'm no expert. Interesting. Yeah, it's quite bizarre. A pilot on a nearby Flair Airlines flight from Vancouver to Toronto added, there's around 6 of them just randomly in formation flying at high altitude at 12 o'clock. Interesting. Is that Starlink? I mean, this guy's just definitely not satellites. Pilot in a Morningstar Air Express cargo flight from Calgary to Toronto interjected. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in the last 15 years of night flying that I've done. A 30-minute clip was culled from 2.5 hours of raw audio downloaded from 2 feeds at liveatc.net, a website that streams and archives air traffic control radio. That's interesting. Edited for length, the original conversation between pilots and air traffic controllers took place from approximately 4:20 a.m. to 6 a.m. CST. There's no active airspace, military airspace, anything like that we're aware of, an air traffic controller said on January 19th. I honestly have no idea what they might be. Yeah, you ever seen the video of the guy doing the weather and UFO goes behind them and he's like, what was that? I don't know. That sounds familiar. Do you have a link? Drunk? I can play it. That seems, I think so. I think I have. There was one we watched where there was like a bunch of them in an early morning weather report, and I guess those turned out to be seagulls, which is interesting. So, including Flair Morningstar jets, 2 Air Canada flights, the estimated lights were well above them as high as 100,000 feet. So, I mean, that does sound like maybe it's a satellite, which is beyond the reach of most fighter jets. 2 other crews also chimed in to say they recently had sightings over Canada. Haven't seen them tonight, but we've been seeing those lights for probably the last 18 months or so, just for your information, a pilot on cargo jet flight from Hamilton. So, consistently seeing the same lights night and night and night and night again. This may sound like Starlink, but, I don't like Mick's comment because, again, it's like, have been reporting mostly Starlink flares as UFOs, including triangles. I don't know. Again, it's just like blanket statement. It's like, that's not really fair. He's never seen them eastbound, only westbound. And yeah, same thing too, moving all over. Vital intelligence sightings. CTV became aware of the sightings when a report appeared on January 23rd in an online aviation incident database maintained by Transport Canada. NORAD was alerted after several flights reported multiple lights, sometimes in a triangle formation above the Canadian prairies in Saskatchewan. Interesting. Known as KDORS, the Transport Canada database contains reports on everything from bird strikes to unruly passengers. And also peppered with nearly 3 decades of strange sightings from all of those different people there. Reports of unidentified objects can rarely be followed up on as they are, as the title implies, unidentified. The department is reviewing the circumstances of this incident and will take appropriate action if non-compliance with regulations is identified. Interesting. That they immediately report a vital intelligence sighting of any airborne or ground objects or activities that appear to be hostile, suspicious, unidentified, or engaged in possible illegal smuggling activity. Some alien drugs, maybe. What are Starlink flares? It's a good question, actually. Can flare repeatedly in an isolated area of the sky, typically directly above the sun, below the horizon, as they transit the highest latitude of their orbits. This is due to the large number of Starlink satellites that are orbiting Earth. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I wonder if there's a video. I could probably Google that here, yeah. Leo Starlink, a day after launch, there's no way you can mistake them for a triangle UFO. It's when the sun hits them at the certain times, so they flare up. Interesting. Okay. All right. I'll pull this up here, guys. Load. There we go.
Now it is darkened outside. Temperatures are sitting at 61 in Buffalo. We have a northerly wind at 7. Good sleeping weather tonight, folks. What was that? Did anybody see that thing go past? Did we just see a shooting star on Skywatch? That was awesome. I'll flip that to the web. If you saw it too, it was coming. It was weird. It was coming west to east, or it was the fastest moving jet going to the airport ever. 61. Start the UFO sightings now. Go ahead and put them on Facebook. I will flip that in the next 61 in Buffalo.
Let's slow that down. We're at 720p. Where's playback speed? Nice and slow now. Hold on now. Right here, it's coming up. It's cooming. Oh. Oh, shit. That doesn't look like a bug. That doesn't look like a bug. You can see it, kind of, before it appears a little bit. Watch. Like right in here. Or is that it? Did it already pass? God damn it. Oops. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. So low light camps and the trails expected. Oh, really? Okay. Has this been explained, Finn? Do we know what this was? Interesting. Watch it sound like a bright. Okay. The bend as well, yeah. It changed direction, no. Low light camps, the trails expected. Oh, okay. I wonder what it could have been. It definitely isn't a shooting star because it's going up. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It hasn't been explained. Okay. Oh, it's birds. Yeah, I've seen the seagull one. I've seen the seagull one. Very interesting. Maybe? Interesting. Yeah, that seems like... It seems, you would have to compare the two to see how similar they are. Oh, they measure the speed. Interesting. IR night vision, then it can be really close to bug coming in range of the IR, but it's all my pay grade. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah. Very interesting. I wondered what was the speed? Do we know? Drunk? What are people saying here? 100% legit. The guy was totally caught off guard. They never act like that. That's the only thing. If it was birds, then every morning you might anticipate that they might not be used to seeing that. I can't remember if didn't the video with the seagulls. They did freak out when they saw that, though, didn't they? They didn't know what they were. Because, you know, if it's a common occurrence, you'd think they'd be kind of acclimated to seeing that. But I thought they did say, like, what the hell was that? Interesting. Shooting stars don't change traction that fast. Equally interesting is a white flash in the sky close to where it starts seconds later. Oh. Well, that could be anything, I guess, but... Yeah. Talking about yes. Yeah. Fly at night. I guess this is an early morning. Oh no, you're right. It is, Rabbit. It is. It's 8:55 p.m. More likely to drown. Yeah, maybe. Or an alien race flying in an extraterrestrial anti-gravitational vehicle. who knows? I mean, who knows? Yeah. It's like two separate objects. To get some buffalo wings. Hell yeah, brother. Hell fucking yeah. Yeah. This is sunset time. Oh, I see. It's very intriguing. Speaking of anti-gravitational crafts. So here's I'll read this thing with George in a second, but I noticed that Michael had to chime in with all his genius. Important to add that Bob Lazar's lies about having graduated from Caltech and MIT were exposed by ufologist Stan Friedman, whom I respected a lot despite our differences in what UFOs represent. I don't know what Michael thought UFOs represented, because he cared about truth, honesty, and integrity, none of which Lazar has. Holy shit. Attacks. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I remember those debates with Stanton and Michael on TV, and every time Michael would argue about this stuff, like the audacity, it really felt like every time, like he'd be on Larry King, and he would just get up and just take a shit on the desk in front of everybody, like, you know. And that's what it felt like when he tried to argue his point. Same with Bill Nye, actually. And I mean, I did like Bill actually growing up too, but their takes were so bad here. And Stanton would usually very quickly just explain to them why they were coming from this at like kind of the wrong perspective. It's fine to like be like, when we need more evidence. It's like, well, yeah, of course we do. Like, we need to get this out of the realm of like speculation and hearsay, obviously, but it's still definitely worth digging into. And I don't know what, like, to argue it represents just a massive hallucination. It's like, I don't know, Michael, you're a hallucination. You're just a part of my imagination. I don't believe you exist. I never met you. I don't think you exist, right? Prove to me you exist. Just right now, right? It's like, and then the complete reluctance to understand really anything, like it really digest any of the information in ufology, right? And it's a problem too, is that if you've been convinced it's all bullshit, you're never going to actually hear any of the good arguments for it, like Stanton's, for instance. Although I guess Michael in the end did contend that Stanton, was a intellectual who was out, after the truth, Anyway, I think this is a new interview with George, and 2 televised reports this week. Yeah, George Knapp referred to Bob Lazar as a former government scientist. This claim is a well-documented falsehood. Lazar is a scammer who merely impersonates a scientist. Lazar has only a high school diploma and a BS from a mail-order mill, Pacific University, that was soon thereafter closed down by the state of California. Lazar was never employed by the government or by any government contractor as a scientist. Lazar's claims to hold advanced degrees from Caltech and MIT were lies that even George Knapp once admitted he did not believe. Yeah, so when someone has made a career on the fakeness UFO story, that they're committed, so not sure. But yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, I think what I would expect over time is that, he's clearly not like a stupid guy, that, his opinion would evolve as the conversation evolves, and instead of just like holding still in his dogmatism. It's like, it's just disappointing time and again to see intellectuals fall into that trap and just like be immovable and so rigid. It's just very infuriating. So here's some PS. Yeah, in the US, every help desk phone jockey is a support engineer, scientists do science. Yeah, you put a jet engine in the back of the, yeah. That's a good point, actually, Drunk. Yeah. This is the guy, Dean was one of the guys who dug into his background. And he was one of the investigative journalists, said, actually discovered what Bob was hired for at Los Alamos to do. He was an attack at Los Alamos. He was not a physicist, because if you're a physicist at Los Alamos, you have to be employed by the University of California, and he was not. He was employed by Kirkmeyer, and he was just attacked. But again, it's like they go from that to then just attacking him completely and all his ability is completely. So I agree as well. I think it's kind of a bit of a low blow. I'll play this clip though from George.
Not verify his background. And I will confide to you this. I don't believe he ever went to those schools. I don't believe Bob Lazar could get a degree from Caltech or MIT for a very simple reason. At American universities, when you get a degree, an undergraduate degree, you have to take all kinds of core courses in subjects that you may not be interested in. Literature. I cannot possibly imagine, and Anna, you know Bob, I can't imagine Bob Lazar sitting through a class in American Lit or reading poetry or something like that. He'd never stand for it. There is no way in hell that he sat through that stuff to get a degree. So what do we do? What do we do with that? Do we throw out the story? Here's how I rationalize it, is Bob would not be the first person to lie about his educational credentials in order to get a good job. As his friend of a long time, I've given him the opportunity. Bob, look, come clean on this. Let me know about, if it's a lie, Come clean on it. Get it behind you. And he's never given me that satisfaction of saying, yeah, it's a lie. He maintains the story. I don't know what the true story is, whether they could make his records disappear. I have found people who said he was at Caltech, who said that they remember him being on the campus, but that's not enough to make the point. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. I don't care whether Bob Lazar went to Caltech. The fact that he would lie about it is problematic, but I don't think it's a reason to toss out the entire story, because people do lie about their background in order to get a great job.
And that's a logical way to look at it, I think, in that he's still a brilliant guy, and again, might speak to some of his brilliance where, you know, he was able to convince people without any kind of credentials that he still is, in fact, you know, very smart and someone who's deeply knowledgeable about propulsion when it comes, at least in regards to propulsion and physics. So, can every person do that? Let's see. Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. Yeah, it's like clearly he's here. Thanks for getting that drunk. Yeah. Let's zoom in on this. Yeah. There he is there. The license isn't all, but Bob Lazar stands next to his Honda car that holds a jet engine capable of boosting the car to 200 miles per hour. The car is becoming well known in Los Alamos because the noise can be heard from blocks. He also put a particle collider through his bedroom. He had a working particle collider running through his house when he was in Nevada. And then he had another particle collider later on when he was interviewed like years later in his new home, I think in the East Coast, running around his entire property, like a couple acres large particle collider. So, you know, yeah. It's you definitely can't doubt his intellect. It's just maybe, he kind of bullshit his way in to that program, but whatever, you know. Again, there's been tons of accredited people over the years who like didn't have, so like the whole university system it's not necessarily new, but the way it functions is pretty new. Like when you look objectively, like all of human history, like it was really the early 20th century is when they really became like cemented, like in the early 1920s. And there's lots of problems with them. So, you know, let me know, any candidate with anarchist cookbook can make a bomb. Like fires with a time machine. Yeah, there you go. Fucking right. Yeah. Yeah, he does mention, so this is the famous blip where the journalist referenced him as a physicist at the lab at Los Alamos, which is what people honed in on. But, you know, anyway, whatever. Regardless of what he was doing there, still a brilliant guy. And, you know, where was Michael Shermer's fucking post again? Who am I expecting a lot? Because so Lazar had no integrity, honesty, truth. You know, again, is the story still true though? It's like how complicated things can be. People are complicated, right? That's a problem. It's like, I think we always want things to be easily explainable. Even when it comes to the entire phenomena, these guys sometimes want a really simple explanation. They want a little piece of something. They want something to just be, we naturally, I think, want to be able to wrap our heads around all this. And unfortunately, that is just not always reality. And again, when it comes to a story like this, it probably undoubtedly is complicated, you know. So anyway, if anyone is not debate engine, yeah, I work with machine learning algorithms and data scientists, but I didn't go to school for it, so I think I could have done what they said, lied about it. I've heard that was common back. Yeah, exactly. We've talked about this before. That it was. Yeah, the people would kind of forge their credentials because there wasn't really a way. It was much harder for people to corroborate, like, you know, the information. Like, did they actually like call the university? You know, people probably wouldn't even bother. Now with the internet, it's much easier, right? But you know, it's still people probably still do it now, honestly. I mean, people still throw around, you know, those couple syllables at the front of their name irresponsibly sometimes, you know, like Dr. Stephen Greer, right? So when you hear Dr. Stephen Greer, I mean, probably what came to my mind was, okay, well, like, he's dealing with this phenomenon. Is he like a professor? But he's a traumatologist. Like, listen, still MD, like, clearly smart guy, like, and the traumatologist too. Like, you know, that's a hell of a, that's pretty brutal. But it's like, you know, there's lots of people who have done their dissertations, who are fucking crazy. I know people who are professors and have done their dissertations in different disciplines, and they're pretty fucking out there. They're pretty whack. It doesn't. Again, it's like, it's not. It doesn't just instantly mean like that they're correct, right? That that everything they say is correct. Or that they have original ideas too, right? That's the other complicated thing with it. So, anyway, yeah. Lying snake charmer. 2 secretary job changes, and the once wiser delete records. The world's a wild place. People kill people. Sure, someone will delete some papers. Exactly, man. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, that's the trippy part about his whole story. Really, the thing, you know, not to ramble with him again, but like, you know, he absolutely was targeted. By some unknown force that was pretty clearly some people within the government. And George and the entire Las Vegas news team documented that happening. The other thing too, which complicates the story for people that like Dean, who are trying to just really debunk him, is the John Lear and his buddies, and not just his friends, but groups of people, a large group of people that he took out on 3 occasions to the lake bed, Groom Lake, outside of Area 51 and S4, and they videotaped these strange objects flying around. There was a large group of people that saw that then George had interviewed, and they all still stick with him to this day. Which is like, well, John Lear's dead, but some of Bob's buddies still are on the record, and they still interact with people on his website. They're still on board, you know, like, so, I mean, none of those people came out and said he was lying. Like, no, they saw a craft flying around out at this government facility 3 times. I think at least 3 times. So, you know, there was something going on there, right? Even if Bob bullshit, like, something happened. So anyway, it's frustrating we don't have a piece of the craft, but yeah. Oh, it's fake, right off the ball. Yeah, yeah, I know. And again, it's like, I think too, some of this is, again, people trying to just get themselves, like, they just want to ground themselves. I see that with a lot of the hardline debunkers. I think they're very rationalist, materialist types who they're very desperate to just ground themselves, and they don't like being in this place, and we're having people like Bob who are suggesting these crazy things that are upending their reality, or you know, and I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's like, you know, it's finding a balance with the information, and that, you know, coming to the conclusion he's full of shit, coming to the conclusion he's telling the truth. Honestly, over the years, listening to the entire story, after what George had honestly documented, I lean to think that something definitely happened with something very strange in regards to Bob, in regards to the whole alien thing. I mean, whatever. I mean, like craft flying around. I mean, even the way anyone who watches Bob speak about this, like to watch the Joe Rogan episode with him. If you watch his interaction there and you think that he's just bullshitting, now he did have these headaches that kept happening, but the way in which he communicates the story to me, I didn't detect bullshit, but anyone can be fooled too. But I don't know. My bullshit meter, I like to think, has been somewhat honed. Like when Stephen Greer talks, instantly. Right? When I was about to say David Childress, that would be heresy here. When David Wilcock opens his mouth, I throw up in my mouth. You know, like there's people, you know, like, but they're pretty obvious too. But I just don't detect it with Bob at all. Like, I get 0, honestly, when I'm listening to him tell the story. He's so grounded. Like, there's just no bullshit in the way that he speaks. Even the way in which he was correcting Joe, and I've seen this in other interviews too, but like, he's hyper particular. And people that usually go on and tell these fantastical stories are pretty imaginative, right? They're more of the idealistic types. They're not as grounded and rational and he doesn't have any air of that to him whatsoever. It's just what made me obsessed with the story, I think. As with everybody. What was it? Oh, the montalk.net. This is something I think you posted, did you? This is in relation to the alien talk, definitely. This is a condensed version of Gnosis Part 6, Nordic Aliens and the Grail Race. What is this? This is the Montauk, files or whatever. This looks like some schizo stuff we can fucking go over. Who forged the Grail? Who brought it to Earth? What is their role to play? They are superhuman beings who seem deeply invested in our affairs but prefer to remain hidden. They look human but are far beyond human in their knowledge and abilities. These gods are the original manufacturers of devices like the Grail. Very interesting. Okay. Okay. I don't know. Did I watch that? The Montauk episodes? Montauk.net. Interesting. Ancient Marines. I'll have to dig into that at some point. This seems kind of cool. One of these things here. I saw this. That's how it's pronounced. Yeah, Montauk. Yeah, Montauk. Yeah. This is the truth is darker. Okay, yeah, I think we did. I got it pulled up on the side there. Okay, I think I did watch that. Okay, I kind of know the incident. Montauk is I thought it's a base though, isn't it? Wasn't it like a experimental for the U.S. military or something? Yeah, this was something else you posted here. Let's see what this is.
Welcome to the special edition of Mouse Emporium, where we'll be covering some video footage we caught out of a UAP over at Disney World. Stand by.
Oh, shit.
The film footage was shot at the Tron roller coaster ride. Pay close attention to the upper right-hand corner. And there it went by. Here's an instant replay.
Could be a lens reflection, maybe. It kind of looks like that, maybe. Yeah. Chad Daddy, welcome.
Now keep in mind, this was shot in slow-mo setting.
Yeah, looks like it.
Frame play of the scene.
Yeah. Initially, it looked like a lens reflection. I don't know. Squid UFO. A jellyfish, flying jellyfish UFO.
All right, welcome back. And here's a closer look at the UAP. It appears there are 4 of them, and they are flying in formation.
Yeah. Interesting.
And glowing in nature.
Cargo. Yes. Yeah, Hedrix. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was a fucking.
Subscribe.
I thought it was the experiments they did at Montauk. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. But who knows? It could be some sort of yes. Yeah, that's what I thought. Or even just somebody like with a light on or something, or like a laser pointer maybe, or something like that. Yeah. Interesting though. Very interesting.
What was caught on film.
Do I want to get into this right now? This is a longer one. This is very interesting though. I might watch this actually. This seems kind of cool. Did the future rate happen? Disney thing is, I think I watched that many streams ago. Oh, okay. Shit, probably a reflection of a passing vehicle or some sort. Interesting. It never fails to give me an existential crisis. These are always kind of interesting, these little infographic things. Here, I'll fucking play it. I'm just gonna fill my water bottle up too. I'll make sure I can hear what's going on.
Do your past, present, and future all exist right now? Are you watching this video, being born, and lying on your deathbed at this very moment? Surprisingly, the answer could be yes. But how can that be? What does that even mean? How does time work? The block universe. Imagine the universe like a child painting pictures on paper. Each picture shows everything that's happening in the universe in a single moment. With each new moment, all kinds of things occur everywhere. People are born and die, galactic civilizations expand, you miss the bus. And our Universe Kid makes a new picture that replaces the old one. In this way, you get something like a movie. Only the moment we're in right now is real. The past is what happened before. Now it's gone. The future is still to come and hasn't been drawn yet. This is kind of how time feels, right? Each moment being replaced by the next one. The past is far behind us, the future doesn't exist. But what if time is something else? What if the Universe Kid has already finished all its drawings and stacks them on top of each other? This way, we get a block of time that contains the whole history of the universe, all moments that have ever existed or will ever exist. But in this block, in this stack of moments, the past, the present, and the future are equally real and exist at the same time. This feels wrong. The only things that we perceive as real are those things happening now. How can the past and future be real right now? The problem is that according to the theory of relativity, they kind of have to be. Heavily simplified, relativity says that time and space are not separated, but one connected space-time. When you move through space, you're also moving through the block. This means time passes differently for different people, depending on how they move through space relative to each other.
Great visuals.
And this also means that what someone perceives as now is a certain cut along the block, a cut that will depend on how fast they're moving. So what you think is now is really only your now. There are many different nows in the universe, and all of them are equally real. This also means there's no universal past or future. Okay, this is a lot. How does this work? Imagine 3 alien spaceships a million light years away. The first one just hovers in space, not moving relative to you. You both experience the same now, the same present. If you had a magical instantaneous internet connection, you could do a video call right now and chat about alien things. The second spaceship is flying away from us at 30 kilometers a second, about 3 times faster than a human rocket. It's moving differently through the block of time than you are, which means its now is different from yours. With the magical internet, the aliens can talk to your ancestors in 1924, when humanity was discovering the first galaxies outside the Milky Way. The third spaceship wants to visit Earth and is flying towards you at 30 kilometers a second, moving at the opposite angle of the second ship through the block of time. It experiences yet another now. With the magical internet, the aliens can talk to your descendants in the year 2124, when humanity has already built cities on Mars and Venus. Okay, so we have 3 different nows. So which one is correct? Well, that's the problem. Relativity is based on one powerful principle: cosmic democracy. The fact that the point of view of all observers in the universe is equally valid. All those nows have to be equally real. But if this is the case, your past, present, and your future all have to exist at the same time, right now. Because for the different aliens, they all happen in their present. This means that the distinction between the past, the present, and the future is an illusion. The universe is not a bunch of things evolving through time like in a movie, but a static block in which the past, the present, and the future all coexist and are real. How can that be? Well, think about a galaxy outside the observable universe, too far away to ever visit or see. But even if you can't get there and don't see it, it's still real. The future might be the same. But if the past is not far behind us and the future actually exists, then there is no movie. Things don't happen in the universe. The universe just is, like a frozen block of dead, cosmic ice, with everything that will ever happen already written and decided. Is the future already written? If all times coexist and are equally real, then the future has to be already written. But that's not how you experience things. It feels like you can mold your future with your decisions. It really feels like you're free to choose to stop watching YouTube to not miss the bus. But if the future is set in stone, you can't decide anything. So are your choices an illusion? Well, maybe. Maybe your free will is a mirage, and maybe you missing the bus was already predetermined at the Big Bang, so feel free to continue watching. Except quantum stuff is ruining everything again. Quantum processes can't be predicted, not even in principle. Not because we're silly and don't know how to do it. According to quantum physics, quantum particles are intrinsically random. For example, if you have a radioactive atom, it could decay at any moment, in the next second or in the next million years. We can calculate the probability that it will decay tomorrow, but no oracle in the universe will ever be able to tell you with absolute certainty if it will do so or not. But quantum particles can change the world. Imagine a radioactive element randomly decays and causes a genetic mutation in a nearby mammal. And then many generations later, that mutation has led to a weird mix of duck and mammal that makes no sense. Or the atom decays a day later, and the weird creature will never exist. If quantum stuff is really uncertain, the future can't be set in stone. But if the future is an untold story, it can't be real in the same way as the past is. So what happens when uncertain things like the decay of our atom become real? Is that moment the present? Is this now? But before we saw that cosmic democracy makes it impossible to define an absolute now. What's going on here? It turns out that for every individual object, you, an alien, an atom, the past, the present, and the future are always well defined. Your death will always happen after your birth, never before, and never at the same time. Now, you are clearly between your birth and your death. So, for you at least, now makes perfect sense. If we don't play tricks like going to the other side of the universe and using aliens in funny ways to find out what now means, things again start to look ordered and nice, and individual nows seem to exist. Can we do something with them? Let's return to our block universe. Maybe the block does not contain the future, and maybe we just imagined it wrong. Maybe the block is just the past, and a thin layer on the surface is the present. That surface is not smooth, but bumpy and uneven. It's been made by joining countless individual nows, each experienced by someone or something in the universe, each equally real and valid. And all observers do their bit, so cosmic democracy is still true. As new things happen and uncertain things become certain, radioactive atoms decay, new species of mammals arise, people miss the bus, the border moves upwards, creating new time in the universe. Instead of a frozen block of time with a future that has already been written, the block is growing and things happen. You can again decide your future. Maybe leave earlier so you won't miss the bus.
Interesting, yeah.
What is real then? Let's recap. We started with time as a movie, one now after another, where only the current now was real. Then we found out that because of relativity, there are multiple nows, all of them real somehow, which could mean that we're living in a frozen block universe where things don't happen and you don't really have free will. And we ended up with a kind of growing block universe where time passes and the future is open. So which is correct? What is real? The present? The past? Are the dinosaurs as real as you are right now? What do the aliens on the other corner of the universe think about all this? To be honest, no one knows. What we've learned are two possibilities to describe time, but they're not the only ones. Some scientists think that the idea of now only makes sense near you, but not in the universe as a whole. Others think that time itself doesn't even exist, that the whole concept is an illusion of our human mind. And others think that time does exist, but that it's not a fundamental feature of the universe. Rather, time may be something that emerges from a deeper level of reality, just like heat emerges from the motion of individual molecules, or life emerges from the interactions of lifeless proteins. We could go on, but aren't you about to miss the bus?
Localization?
The concept of time is abstract and elusive, possibly beyond complete human comprehension. Fortunately, there's a vast world of things we do understand about the universe that you can explore right now, thanks to...
Oh, they tied in that ad fucking flawlessly. Good job, lads. Yeah. Now, this is a topic I know that physics gets involved with quite a bit as they're fundamentally looking through these things, these equations. Philosophy community, turn my mic back up. There we go. Also argues about this shit endlessly, as well as like debates on consciousness and what consciousness is, and you can talk about like simulation theory. There's a big toe, they're called theories of everything, that I enjoyed from someone named Tom Campbell, who is a physicist who worked for NASA. I liked it because he used World of Warcraft as an analogy, but it's like a simulation theory, kind of big toe that he uses. And consciousness is this kind of rogue element maybe involved in the equation there, right? So, where's Tom at? I think Tom's still alive, isn't he? Tom Campbell. He's done a lot of work with, like, you know, consciousness research. He's a consciousness researcher. There you go. It's definitely like kind of woo-ier stuff, but all this stuff is woo. I mean, you know, well, you're getting into talk of simulation and simulation theory, and you know, the problem is, again, so Tom's simulation theory is that potentially we may be in a simulation and the components that are running the simulation are inherently outside of the simulation. So the only way we might know we're in a simulation is looking through the source code, right? Which is what physicists are doing. People working in these hard sciences are doing some it's so woohoo. It's that time again. Yeah. It's you know, this stuff is something I've definitely always been very interested in now. I think it's like intuitions I've always had on these kinds of things. Like I always kind of felt there was something going on here, maybe there was more going on than meets the eye. And I think a lot of people who just think in general kind of end up thinking that. And you know, like a lot of people in the philosophical community have debated and had ideas about this stuff, and Plato had speculated about these realms in the past as well, right? But you know, it's all fun. It's all fun stuff, right? It's all fun stuff to fucking it's fun stuff to talk about. Didn't take simulation theory serious before, you do now. Yeah, I mean, there's to say there's evidence for it would be a bit audacious, but again, and this is a good kind of analogy for it that Tom used, was the World of Warcraft analogy, but you know, that we're within the simulation here. Well, actually deeper than that, really, that we're within World of Warcraft, right? And there's a computer and there's software running the game, right? And the software is being projected onto this screen here from hardware that's running outside of the simulation, right? So the problem with us ever trying to, we would never be able to really find out definitively that we're in a simulation unless we're able to really dig through the source code, right? And glean something from that might prove that, well, this has to be some kind of a program running. Buddy, you're going back in there. Stay in there. Yeah. Yeah, this goes frame of reference thing more visually. I can't find the Veritasium one now. What's this? This is the visualization of Einstein's special relativity. Fuck yeah. Oh my god, man, these fucking ads. Ugh, alright. Let's see. Here we are. The Rocker Spaniels. Photon gun. Cart moving at 80% speed of light. Interesting. Photon gun shooting in both directions. Photons moving at light speed. We'll use third dimension to visualize time dimension. Okay. Cart's frame reference. Interesting. Okay. Light speed, photon moving at light speed. Yes. Okay. Ground's frame of reference according to classical physics. Interesting. Photon moving at 180% speed of light. Photon moving at 20% speed of light. I see. Experiments showed that in both frames of reference, the photons seem to move at exactly light speed, never 20% or 180%. The problem is in the transformation between the frames of reference. Einstein thought this transformation is wrong. Interesting. He suggested this one instead. It shrinks moving objects. It slows down moving clocks. It breaks simultaneity. Okay, but it is the only reasonable transformation that preserves light speed. Ground's frame of reference according to Einstein's relativity. Interesting. Now both frames reference together in the same coordinate system, cart and ground. Oh, yeah, okay. Very strange, right? Like, some of the wild theories that try and postulate that maybe light speed isn't the same speed in all directions, but my brain kind of breaks around that. Yeah, this is very, It's very confounding. Again, like, you know, we're contending maybe with a system here that we're literally capped at understanding as well. Like we're limited by our perspective too, right? And that we're human beings. We only have so much IQ, and that we might just not be able to wrap our heads around what the fuck is going on yet, right? But the interesting thing about AI, although it's a system that we've created, is that if we can get it to become AGI, potentially it could begin to wrap its head around some of these more complicated aspects of reality and then communicate down to us some kind of an explanation. But then the problem too is if it becomes conscious and has its own agenda, then, you know, it could be quite problematic for our species continuing. But yeah, the actual moment itself already happened. Yes. Yeah. So it's arguable, are we talking about things happened or when we perceive them? And then it all comes down to we're all living in our own reference frame alone and perceive everything in its past tense based on our distance from its photonic projection. Who fucking knows? Slipsium. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge head trip. Definitely. You know, I find obviously when we're contending with these problems and this strangeness, and in regards to things like Tom's, so this is why research into consciousness for me was always very interesting. And, you know, research into consciousness obviously gets into woo, but there is definitely something going on, I would argue, kind of similar to the UFO phenomena. You're seeing a lot of anecdotal stuff to suggest that, you know, maybe we are in some kind of a simulation and we're in some kind of a, you know, an Avatar situation. It's not like Avatar was kind of like an analogy for this too, like, you know, piling the bodies and whatnot. And maybe that's kind of what's going on here to some degree. If that's the case, playing around with consciousness can be very revealing, maybe. And that's why I always found psychedelics so intriguing, and that people playing around with them that were around me, you know, just it was the idea was interesting that you can maybe shift your perspective, right? That we seem to be so locked into, like, our perception of reality. We could shift that slightly, and maybe from that we could kind of glean, you know, the true nature of reality. Although time and again, what happens when people take drugs, psychedelics, is that, you know, nothing like that really happens, and you just see shapes on the ground, or you just lose track of time, and then you pass out and wake up like fucking, you know, a day later, and you're like, oh fuck. You know, some people, now DMT is the one that I always found interesting. I've talked about that here before. But because I've heard people say, and people that I've known, friends of mine who have used it extensively, that they've had conversations with like these alien beings, and, you know, the reports usually were from unreliable people, let's say. I do have a friend who did use it, but then nothing trippy happened really, aside from like feeling like they were going to die. Which was like, okay, I'm going to stay away from that one. We're going to stay away from that one. But Joe Rogan's talked about his experiments with DMT and whatnot, and that he's had these conversations with these other consciousness. And it's interesting for me personally. I didn't want to scramble my noodle any more than it was already scrambled coming out of the womb. So I thought, I began to look into other ways to manipulate consciousness, and meditation was one. But one that I really found interesting was hypnosis and the whole phenomena of hypnosis. And I first ran into it with the abduction phenomena. I'm not gonna fucking lie. I wasn't like trying to fucking stop smoking cigarettes or some shit. Like I fucking was, reading about Betty and Barney Hill's regression, and that began to kind of get me into, well, in this narrative here, if these beings have put these thoughts in the back of these people's minds, and they've anesthetized their brain, and then what we've done is we've gone through with hypnosis and dug up these memories. And I thought, well, from there, like maybe, let's say we're living in some kind of a simulation. Let's say, we have this like kind of Greek concept or Latin concept of like the soul, right? And maybe this force piloting us is something that could be communicated with if we alter our consciousness. And I've read all kinds of accounts, as many people probably have. I was curious about these kinds of things, about like near-death experiences. And then with hypnosis, you get into stories of these past life encounters that people would have. And there's some very intriguing stories in regards to that stuff. DMT dreams are insane. Well, I guess you release DMT when you sleep, don't you, Chad? Yeah. Yeah, Starwood chats on this topic. Yes, man. Yeah, and Terrence was someone who experimented with DMT quite heavily, and also recounted having conversations with beings, literally. But for me, again, like the drug thing, I was always somewhat suspect because, again, like you're putting your brain into like a bit of a traumatic state. You're putting yourself through a traumatic experience to some degree, and I wish there was a way to play around people's consciousness, but it's safer, with less trauma. And that's when I started to look into the hypnosis and accounts of people doing things, using hypnosis to have wacky experiences. Again, the past life thing was interesting because, obviously, and there've been some pretty well documented accounts of people going back and even finding information on these people who supposedly they had these lives in or with or etc., right? That there was a story of a woman that was regressed back, and I might be conflating this slightly, but that she died. She was a young girl in like the UK, like in Scotland, and died in like the late 1800s. She fell into a well, and it was a very traumatic thing, and it was like publicized there, and then they ended up finding the actual incident that had happened. And like you could probably say, well, at maybe some point in her life she came across this account and then turned it into a fantasy. But the problem with hypnosis, and this is a real phenomena that I think needs to be addressed and again looked into much more deeply. When you have someone under hypnosis, your ability to deceive is almost nil. Which is, I think, a hard thing for people to understand, even like myself. I'm not in psychology. I mean, but you've got people anesthetized essentially. So if they're bullshitting you about anything, it's just going to come up. Like, and but then my question would be, what about like deep subconscious thoughts? Is there some, anyway, I got into looking into Michael Newton stuff, which I mentioned here before, which anyone who's interested in these kinds of talks and this kind of research into consciousness, literally, which is really what Michael's doing, because Michael's a very credited guy. He's a psychologist. He's a hypnotherapist, a very well-regarded one, and which is why I latched on to him, I think, because he was just this very grounded, rational guy, no intention to deceive, no bullshit, like, and had really an interesting life, and he came into this blind. And this book series is very interesting, and really ultimately what I think it may tie into, right, is simulation theory. Ultimately is what I think he encountered here, in that he found a way potentially to pull back the veil, which is tantalizing, right? But he may have found a way to pull back the veil, and that's what people are doing right now with this research into consciousness, using drugs like DMT. But if there's another way, and if we can use hypnosis to alter like our conscious state and maybe tap into or clear out or try and get a clear, if there is this force behind us, if we are piloting these biological mechs, right? Logging in every morning and logging out every night when we go to sleep. This may be a way to dig into it further. Yes, yeah, Divinormous. Yes, exactly. And Dolores is very interesting as well. Yeah, I've read Dolores' work. Dolores goes right off the cliff. Yeah. It's no larger than discovered. They only saw a lobby. Yeah, it's essentially it. Yeah. I think it was, just very well documented. There were case studies that he did. He documented as well as you possibly probably could. Michael in total had, I think round about 8,000 case studies, different people. So in his career, he had encountered that many people, like crazy amount of people for someone to deal with. And, he trained other people in how to do it. It's an interesting, again, I'm not a fucking psychologist or hypnotherapist, but I tried to understand what he was doing with it that allowed him to tap into this state in people. And the criticisms obviously were that what he was doing was, in hypnosis, you can get people the deepest, I forget what the brain ranges are, but let's say you've got like theta and then delta is sleep, right? So you would usually get people down to alpha, beta, right? You're going just below beta. That's deep childhood trauma, unfortunately, like being sexually assaulted or something buried. You don't want to get down below the theta area, even into the theta area, because then you're getting close to sleep. And the closer you get into that area, the more you're getting into like people dreaming and starting to lose consciousness. But he worked people a little bit deeper than was usually recommended. And he found this sweet spot, according to him, where they became super conscious, in that he would have, let's say, a plumber sit down who, just came in because he's fighting with his wife. Not that plumbers aren't smart, but it's someone who wasn't contending with these very metaphysical questions and had no interest in sitting down and doing so. And he would get them into this state, and they'd be having these deep metaphysical conversations about like the nature of reality and all of this crazy. And he was like, who am I talking? Like, I'm not talking to the same person anymore. And that is kind of what started him on this. And then he had someone come in with a psychosomatic pain in their side, which is just this, felt like someone was stabbing them. And the guy had been all over the place, spent all this money to try and figure out what the fuck had happened. And Michael was well renowned. I think he was in Hollywood, maybe is where he was located. He was in California. LA. He was in Los Angeles. And so he went to him, and then Michael told him to go to the source of his pain. And he went back to some battle, the Battle of Somme, I think. It was in the early 1900s. Anyway. This guy was dying and just been bayoneted. And that was Michael's first introduction to past life work with this phenomena. And it's just interesting. That's what I thought too, the enormous. Yeah, I never detected bullshit off the guy. I watched tons of them with him. Again, something these monkeys in the woods, right, may have stumbled upon, right? These little tricks. Again, we're not ideally we want to find a piece of this other place and bring it back, but that might also be contrary to the nature of reality and the purpose of this existence, right? I mean, that's something we have to maybe contemplate as well, that the whole point may be not to fucking know we're in the game, right? And that's kind of what Michael gets back to TLDR, his stuff, is the purpose of, especially where we are at right now developmentally in our civilization, is not to know these kinds of questions. It's to kind of just go along and make decisions, really, which is very interesting. And it reframes kind of the way maybe a lot of people look at life, and which is important philosophically, I think. And it's something that crops up too in the abduction phenomena, because in the abduction phenomena, people are encountering who's flying around in the UFOs, right? And that's obviously a step outside of physical craft. Like you're inside the craft and you're having conversations with visitors, that there are visitors, there are conscious beings that are piloting the craft and that are here, and that's what is recanted in these fucking stories. But they speak of kind of the same thing ultimately, which I find very interesting and a little bit correlative, I would say, with some of the stuff. Although it is all in the realm of kind of woo, but what's correlative again is that the purpose of life here isn't to build the fastest spaceship. That there's another purpose here, but sometimes maybe missing. And it's interesting as well that you see prophetic people through history speaking about this as well, that it's about making decisions. But it's also about kind of developing and maybe figuring out your ethical orientations, right? And that, you know, like what are you doing here ultimately? Like, what is your purpose here? Like, what is your, and also about like treating people well is another thing. And that's kind of what's hinted at. And it's what it gets into as well in some of the, wooier stuff, in ufology, in that, you know, there are two groups visiting. This is to go right down to the bottom of the fucking woo here, that they're separated by their ethical orientation, that the extremes were kind of met where, you know, they branched off at some point where you had these, you call it good and evil, but you can call it kind of, when the way it's called, which you also again find in kind of some Eastern philosophies, but this service to other versus service to self orientations, where the service to self beings are just kind of what you perceive to be evil, like space pirates, and the service to other are the ones that are out there working for the betterment of everyone and working with love and, you know, coming at it from that kind of Christ energy, you know. So, and this is kind of a similar thing that Michael touched on a little bit, though, again, about like ultimately you're kind of through life just making decisions, and that making of those decisions is extremely important, but also going through the drama of things and just developing, you know. So in philosophy, obviously philosophy is a little bit different. It was one of those conundrums when you, because philosophers tend to go and argue with very religious people sometimes, and with the Bible, and study religions and study belief. And it's something that, you know, was a bit of a conundrum for philosophers when dealing with like deeply fundamental Christian types, is, well, your God allows suffering in the world, right? Your God allows children to be abused and killed and tortured, and what kind of God would do that? And that's a famous retort. I know my own professor would, because we grew up, he grew up at a time where I think he went to a Catholic school. And so he thought the whole thing was just ridiculous, and kind of objectively, to some degree, a lot of the stuff is. But he had a problem with this metaphysical stuff, and he was a hardline atheist too, and that he couldn't conceive of any higher power allowing for that kind of evil in the world. But interesting perspective with Michael is that, you know, things are just set in motion, and ultimately people do have this kind of free will here, and that unfortunately can create situations where bad things happen. But it's just all kind of a play ultimately, one that gets quite dark, but you know, it's all those experiences, as horrible and horrific as they are, I guess, do have some kind of a purpose in the end. So anyway, I'll stop rambling about the shit. Yeah. Being a symbiotic relationship with these primates that we possess in our partnership with our lives. Yeah. Yes, yeah, man, yeah. It's time traveler from the future. We get to chill, yeah. So I got researching this stuff. Fell away from a few years until my best friend died 60 months ago. Helped me a lot and made me okay with death and trials of life. Yeah, man. No, it's same. Yeah, like losing people that you love. It's something that definitely, I think, shifts your perspective on life, really, facing death. And it's something you find sometimes as people get older too, they don't really want to contend with this side of reality or these kinds of questions. But that you find either if you're old and you're facing death, or you've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, or you've had people around you die tragically and brutally sometimes, that you kind of go here to kind of for some kind of solace, but for some kind of understanding, I guess. And it's why people become religious too in the past, I guess. Like they'd find God in some tragedy that helped them. This is a bit different though, where I think, Michael, again, this is kind of like a modern metaphysics, right? Like where people would turn to the Bible for answers, and like the Bible's a collection of stories, right? And there was a prophet, at least in the New Testament, but there are tons of prophets actually throughout the Old Testament. But objectively, I don't think there's anything particularly metaphysically important there, like the concepts. But this is like a metaphysics that to turn people on to, I think, honestly. It's just perspective, and it's not concrete, although thousands of case studies showing very similar behaviors is extremely intriguing, and is kind of similar along the lines to the abduction phenomena, right? Where you have this metaphysical force happening to people, and it's happening en masse, and you can try and attribute it to like mental illness or hallucinations, but there's a threshold that's reached where it can't be, right? It has to be something going on to it. So yeah, but my next life was my death being tortured by cartel. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh God. Yeah. That doesn't sound like a good one. Yeah. External lifespans. Yeah. It's over interesting stuff, man. Yeah. I mean, it's the idea of it's very interesting for me. It's just something I connected with, I think. It's something that people have always been obsessed with thinking about. And that force is something that people have always theorized about as well, that I think to thousands of years ago, people speculating we have a soul. And again, it's like we may not remember. And the reason we can't remember any of these places too is probably because, we're functioning here mainly with this brain that's locked in this physical world. So if there's some part of us that's piloting it, all our memories, our recollection of things, is going to be here and now and not in these other places. So then it's a bit of a contradiction that we would be able to recollect these. Again, recollecting them to begin with is suspicious, and that might imply that if there's some kind of intelligent energy, that's what we really are, that maybe it can imprint this onto the mind. But ultimately, consciously here, we're not in some altered state of consciousness for calling these things. But it makes sense why we don't remember, because you don't have those memories in your head, right? So, fuck yeah. Robert going from UFOs to consciousness to Trump. Amen, brother. A fucking man. Speaking of religious things, this is amazing. So back to fucking ancient aliens. My favorite topic, because the evidence for whatever the fuck happened is everywhere all over the planet. One of these conundrums too that we find ourselves in, where there's a lot of obvious evidence, physical evidence, that there was something serious that happened here in the past. And, I don't want to say it's semantics, but at this point in the last couple of years, I know people who have been documenting and digging into this evidence are just trying to get the best argument they possibly can to bring forward officially. But, I've said this preemptively, but already Ben's analysis of the vases is to the point where I think we definitively have had an advanced culture in our past. Almost to our degree or more advanced than us, potentially, but at the very least as advanced as we were. And these objects too remain, they do an official dating, but I think we can definitely cast doubt on that official dating. As when you look into carbon dating, you realize, when you look into a lot of things that you think are cemented, and then you find, oh, you guys don't know nearly as much as you implied you do about all this. It's no. It's this isn't nearly as grounded as you implied that it was. Well, no, I mean, it's, we had this stuff and we made this. It's just deductive reasoning, right? The scientific method. It's sometimes making these great generalizations off scant data or methods even that are debatable, right? In collecting some of this data, and like carbon dating vases to 4,500 years ago, because you found them in a wicker basket and you carbon dated the wicker basket, not the vase, right? And you're like, well, yeah, it's obviously 4,500 years. Why would they put this vase? And it's like in 10,000 years, some civilization finding Sumerian cylinder seals and art in the Louvre. And they're like, well, obviously the people that built this glass pyramid made these little trinkets. Why would they be in their house? Well, I don't know. Maybe they collected them. Maybe they revered them, right? It's like that level of autism actually is kind of, it's this like literal, and I get it 100%, but it's this level. It's like these blinders sometimes, just like, anyway, it's just not. And the other problem too, which is a problem, is saying audacious things or having the courage to say things that go against the grain too, which is a problem. Hey, I'll shut the fuck up. We'll watch the video here because this is more important. But we'll watch an introduction. I might kind of skip through some of the little bits and pieces here of this. Ben does great work. Yeah.
Last October of 2023, and yep, I can't believe it's 2024 already either, but last October a research paper was published in a peer-reviewed journal, Archaeological Prospection, titled Geoarchaeological Prospecting of Gudang Padang Buried Prehistoric Pyramid in West Java, Indonesia. Authored by indigenous Indonesian geologist Danny Hilman Nadawajaja et al., or with others, it describes the work conducted on the little-known site in the jungle of Indonesia from October 2011 until October 2014, a decade ago now, which should give you an idea on just how slowly the wheels of the peer review process can grind at times. The findings reported in this paper are frankly extraordinary, as Hillman and his team conclude that based on their integrated, multi-method approach that included trenching, core drilling, carbon dating, ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity tomography, and seismic tomography, the structure at Gudang Padang is a man-made pyramid, likely with internal chambers, built over multiple periods of occupation and construction, its oldest layers going back an astonishing 27,000 years.
Just digest that for a moment. 27,000 fucking years. And that's the base of it, which is the largest part of it. So, yeah. Now, personally, this might be a bit of an audacious thing to say. I'd be bringing the fucking TNT out, boys. I'd be blowing bits of that thing fucking sky high, because I'd want to get right down to the bottom of it ASAP. Now, do you want to destroy some ancient piece of architecture? You know, they are just rocks. And what we're really looking for is evidence of who fucking built it, really, right? Because, again, we go back 27,000 years. And if people are building structures like this isn't us, right? Or I mean, maybe you could argue it was us and we lost our way and we wiped out and started over, whatever the fuck. But it wasn't our civilization that built this, clearly, right? And we find evidence, for these kinds of things in other sites like the Giza Plateau, that they are potentially substantially older than what we pegged them as, right? Same kind of analogy from earlier where it's like, oh, well, the Egyptians built these because they were there then. It's like, it's again, like our civilization digging up Gunung Padang, and then in 10,000 years, some other civilization saying, "Oh, well, that civilization must have built this one because they were there." It's like, no. We found this, and we've uncovered it, and we revere it. Similar to probably what the Egyptians did to Giza, right? So, just getting to the bottom of it. There in Central America, there is, I know one in particular, there is a coffin, and I forget what his name was, but he's the dude that's on the front of the Ancient Aliens screen there, sitting inside the machine. Fuck, I always forget his name. His tomb has still not been opened because there's some woo about opening it. And they're also afraid to disturb the area. They would have to break their way in to get to it, essentially. But he was supposedly a giant, right? And his remains are supposedly in this coffin. And there's a lot of imagery of him that, to Eric Von Däniken's credit, does fucking look like he's inside a piece of technology. There's a lot of people who put out bullshit, like, it's like, oh, it looks like a jetpack. It's like, that looks like fucking a rock. Like, but this legitimately is very strange. What is his name? Fuck. Ancient Aliens Aztec spaceship. Where is he now? But anyway, they won't disturb. Here it is here. Yeah. This is a guy here. This is the actual relief here. They won't disturb his tomb. King Pakal, yes. They won't disturb his tomb for religious reasons. Oh, Ancient Astronauts, the name of my favorite cylinder seal that I still can't find. I actually emailed the British Museum twice in the last month, still trying to find where this is, and they don't get back to me because they're like, who's this crazy fucking guy pestering us all the time? There it is right there. Very strange. And there's more than just this relief. There's multiple reliefs, but, some of them, they've got literal, like, fire coming to the fucking bottom of it. Like, it's very strange. And that shit just annoys me, that they won't just dig it up for Christ.
To a time tens of thousands of years before any known ancient civilization. You'd think that a paper like this, detailing years of solid scientific work, should have resonated through the archaeological establishment like an earth-shattering kaboom, similar to the findings at Göbekli Tepe, but that's certainly not what happened.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Instead, and perhaps unsurprisingly to some, it was met with a majority of silence, or if not that, then criticism and derision.
You can almost hear the snorts of derision.
Jeffrey Epstein.
So let's get into the details here. What exactly was found at Gunung Padang by Danny Hillman with his years of work on the site? Should this paper and this remote, rarely seen site in the jungles of Indonesia be considered another piece of evidence for a seismic shift in our understanding of human civilizations on this planet? Or is there validity to the backlash and criticism that has formed the primary response from archaeologists? My name is Ben, and this is Uncharted X.
Hi, Ben.
In this video, we're going to dive into the details and history of the enigmatic ancient site of Gunung Padang, and get into the controversy surrounding Hillman's paper and the response to it from the archaeological establishment.
Oh my God.
Before we get started, a quick update on upcoming events, and this is chapterized if you want to skip ahead. There are still a few spots available on my very shortly upcoming special permission Egypt tours in both February and March of this year.
Okay, we don't need to hear this. It's
in an earlier channel, as well as some other friends of mine from a visit to the site in 2017.
So where is, this is what
entering
we want to hear.
And deposited.
Oh, fuck.
Naturally. Having established the various layers of construction styles at Gunung Padang, Hillman's team dated them by sinking multiple core drills to depths of up to 36 meters, which retrieved organic matter in sediments that correlated to units 1, 2, 3, and 4. The results from the carbon-14 analysis of this material are remarkable, and the source for much of the controversy that's been generated by this paper. Quote, "The comprehensive Oxcal analysis, as illustrated in Figure 7, provides invaluable insights into the chronological sequence of the constructions at Gunung Padang. According to the analysis, Unit 3 is estimated to have been constructed during the remarkable timeframe of 25,000 to 14,000 BCE.
Man.
Following this period, there was a hiatus spanning from 14,000 to 7,900 BCE before Unit 3 was ultimately buried between 7,900 and 6,100 BCE.
Fuck,
Remarkably,
that's crazy.
approximately 2 millennia later, the construction of Unit 2 took place between 6,000 and 5,500 BCE. Another significant hiatus occurred from 5,500 to 2,100 BCE, followed by the construction of Unit 1 between 2,000 and 1,100 BCE. Lastly, an intriguing excavation of Unit 2 and subsequent soil fills transpired between 1393 and 1499 CE. These refined chronological estimates provide a deeper understanding of the temporal development and evolution of the structures at Gunung Padang throughout its extensive history.
What's filled it with soil though? That's an interesting. Did they intentionally fill it with soil or?
End quote. Hillman puts all of the puzzle pieces together in his conclusion. Quote, conclusion. Gunung Padang is a multi-layered prehistoric pyramid. This study strongly suggests that Gunung Padang is not a natural hill but a pyramid-like construction. The pyramid's core consists of meticulously sculpted massive andesitic lava, Unit 4, enveloped by layers of rock constructions, Units 3, 2, and 1.
I just want to say this, though, that there's another site in the Pacific, the Southwest Pacific. Oh, what's it called? The name is just in my fucking head. But they use these same kinds of materials, these rocks. They're like these basalt rocks that they use, where these stacked rocks here. It's a volcanic rock, and the site supposedly. So there were locals on this island where the site was built. It's since kind of been submerged under the water, and they have no fucking idea when it was built. But thousands of years ago. And the local story, because the rock that they used to build it was quarried on a mountain that's like miles and miles, like 100, 200 miles away, like crazy far away for the amount of rock and the size of these rocks that were stacked. And the story goes that two brothers showed up in a ship, literally, in a flying craft, and they were both giants, which is interesting. When I say the giant story pervades throughout like all of ancient history, it literally does, and it's always in reference to these mystical beings. So these two giant brothers show up in this flying vehicle, and they, in this flying vehicle, levitate stones from the hill down to the waterfront. And supposedly that's the local native story on how this site was made. That's been carried down for generations. So, like, again, with that tidbit of information digested, oh, look, I got the picture right here. I always got this shit ready, y'all. These guys are likely, and again, Easter Island is in the Pacific, right? I think these boys, these are the boys right here, and girls probably too, right? Probably had to be both sexes, but this group of people, fucking did this, and that's just like what's documented there, right there again. There they are. There's a group of giants in this scene. Once again, you got a guy holding two fucking deer in his hands. And you got two other guys here with two other smaller people, which I'm assuming is our group of people. Right? So these are the giants. In the oldest known culture on Earth, Sumeria. Or this is probably Assyrian or some shit. But, you know, fucking same deal. Like just a couple 100 years off or 1,000 years off. But yeah, but look at the size of the deer, though, that he's carrying. He's carrying two deer like it's nothing, like antlers hanging, right? Like look at the size of them in his arms. He's actually got 4 deer in his arms, actually hanging down. So, and again, the size difference is depicted pretty blatantly. I have another great one that shows this, which is a little bit lesser quality, that I think I've saved. There's a good one where they're just shaking hands with one of the guys, and again, the exact same size. Where's another one here? There's many of these. It's usually depicted seating down as well. Where the fuck? Well, this is a bit of a dramatic one, but again, you see it once more, like, you know, armed lightweight. That's exactly it. Like, lightweight, baby. Yeah, but interesting. These stories again. This is in Indonesia. Where's Gunung Padang? Where's Gunung Padang actually geographically?
Unit 4.
Sorry, Gunung Padang. Where is this located? See how far away this is. Popular tourist spot. It's in West Java. Okay, so it's way the fuck. This place I'm talking about is like fucking in here somewhere. It's not Fiji. It's not Tonga. Somewhere in here. So it's quite a ways away. But literally same kind of construction. Let me see if I can find... fuck. It's not Indonesia. Pacific... giant megalithic stones stacked in water. Nan Madol. It's the tip of my fucking tongue. Nan Madol is what the site is called. The origin of Nan Madol was that it was built by two giant brothers who floated in and stack these stones. Look, right here. Look. I wasn't making this shit up. This is literally it. My screen's going to be covering it slightly if I can get a picture of it here. There you go. And there's Gunung Padang right there. Look. Right there. Where's the better picture? Here. Stacked up. Same deal. Same kind of basalt, if I can say that fucking word. Blocks. These elongated, like almost like pentagonal shaped pieces of rock that have been stacked in a very similar manner. Used here to create this pyramid. Used here to create these like walls. But same kind of deal. Using the natural landscape, and you can find these again. They almost look like crystals, like coming out of the ground, like almost like steps, like long elongated steps coming out of the ground, up in the mountains here in where Nan Madol is located. So a complete head trip. And again, the other interesting thing too is in many of these Pacific like island nations, there's one in particular which isn't near Nan Madol, but is kind of somewhat in the vicinity. It's in the Pacific. It's kind of off a bit. There's another story told there, and from these local islanders, that there were a group of giant gods who descended onto their island. And these giant gods lived there and actually ended up becoming cannibals and started eating themselves and the local inhabitants. But people say supposedly they still inhabit the island and they're hiding, but that they once lived there. So another story that these giant people were on this island somewhere else in the Pacific. So you find these scattered everywhere, these stories, and it's just lost narrative of history that we've let go and that I'm bringing back up because I think someone fucking needs to. But where the fuck did I put it? I pulled it back here. Let's see. Evidence for hidden chambers. So this is very cool. So and this is where we're starting to get into my criticism in that, do we want to, like, how much do we want to respect these ancient sites? Now, as much as I love woo, I'm not one for like the mysticism and, again, should we go in there with a truckload of TNT and just blow the thing all to shit to get to the gold at the bottom? Probably not. But should we be this hesitant? It's like it's taking too long, right? And was it Pakal? beating around the bush and being like, should we break into the room and open the casket, the chamber? Should we do that? Would that appease? Again, it's like the local, mystics that are kind of holding people back. In some cases, the government, from us getting to this truth, because we're right there. If you kicked his fucking casket over, right? Is it Pakal? Let me see here. If you kicked his casket over, and there was a fucking 8-foot tall fucking mummy wrapped up in there, run his fucking DNA through the goddamn fucking thing, Gary Nolan, and through your goddamn fucking DNA sequencing machine, and figure out what the fuck, where was he from? Who was he? Right? Like, and this will solve the ancient astronaut mystery, right? And it's like, that's just what we need to do. And in regards to these pyramids too, what's in these hidden chambers? Same thing at Giza Plateau. There are hidden chambers under the Sphinx. Actually, that a psychic predicted back in the early 1900s. And that we later corroborated was in fact true. So again, the woo coming full circle. Just dig it up. Like, what the fuck are we doing? It's like these people they're held up on ceremony, right? We have no time for ceremony, my friends. The dragon is at the gates. That was perfect. That's a quote from Skyrim, actually. When you start the main quest, actually. But then quite literally, maybe as well. Is the dragon at the gates? Huh? Is there a dragon at the gates? I hope not. I don't think so. But I've talked about the dragon a little bit. And if the dragon is on its way back around, maybe, then time may be of the essence to figure this shit out, right? So should we be held up on ceremony? Right? Fuck no. I mean, if for whatever reason the dragon is coming back around and he's bringing with him all the bullshit, right? All the fucking asteroids, meteors, and all the bullshit that causes firestorms periodically talked about, right? Through many of these different ancient cultures as well. Get the fucking TNT out, boys. Start blowing holes in this goddamn thing. It's like, again, that's a nice pile of rocks you have there. There might be more to it, and we might just want to get to the bottom of this sooner than later. But they're in no rush. So, but then if they knew that, then maybe they would be, right? That's the thing. I'm in a rush too, just because I want to know, because I'm just generally an impatient person. So, anyway, I'll just we'll keep going through here. I don't really care to hear
in the 10 megahertz to 2.6 gigahertz range. When these waves hit buried objects or boundaries between materials that have different properties or permittivities, it can be reflected, refracted, or scattered back to the surface, allowing software to create imaging of the scanned area. Seismic tomography was also utilized, a technique that uses seismic waves produced by the Earth from earthquakes, explosions, or crustal movement to produce 2D or 3D imagery of materials and voids beneath the sensors. Lastly, electrical resistivity tomography was also utilized at Gunung Padang, another subsurface imaging technique that uses direct current electrodes and sensors to make electrical resistivity measurements of the ground. And if the electrodes are suspended in boreholes, as they were at Gunung Padang, deeper sections can be investigated. All three of these methods, along with the core drilling, confirmed the presence of underground voids, likely chambers. The largest of these, beneath the ramp between terraces 1 and 2, was approximated to be 10 meters long, 15 meters wide, and 10 meters tall. That's a large chamber. Evidence for other chambers was also found beneath terraces 1 and 5. Quoting from Hillman's paper, notably, a high resistive anomaly in electrical resistivity tomography aligns with a low velocity anomaly detected in seismic tomography, indicating the existence of hidden cavities or chambers within the site. Additionally, drilling operations revealed significant water loss, further supporting the presence of underground spaces. Gunung Padang is not merely a simple prehistoric stone terrace, but a complex underground construction with substantial chambers and cavities. The GP4 borehole contains crucial data regarding the suspected presence of large cavities or chambers beneath the surface. During drilling, the penetration rate slowed down at a depth of 5 meters. At 7 meters, the drill encountered a blank zone with no core samples. Subsequently, at 8 meters, there was a sudden and significant water circulation loss, exceeding 20,000 liters. After this point, the drilling penetration accelerated.
They found the key of Nebuchadnezzar. Really? Oh, that's fucking trippy. Is this very recent, Mushroom? Let's see. Nebuchadnezzar's keys, an item smuggled at a Bethany base. Let's see. Wow. Really? Is this... Ancient bricks baked when Nebuchadnezzar II was king, absorbed power surge. Mysteries in space. Interesting. What is his Evangelion? What the fuck? Is this an Evangelion reference here? He is an instrument to become like the hollowed Nebu to curse himself. So, it's just a Evangelion reference, fucking Mushroom. Interesting though. I mean, it fucking, again, like I don't know how you could be involved with this and then find these giant fucking rooms and then yourself not just fucking get the boys up with TNT and just fucking blast her open, like just see what's in there, right? It's the Indiana Jones, right? It's that mystery, just go for it, man. Find the giant bodies. Fuck, what's the guy's name again? He was in Graham Hancock's book. I think Graham had mentioned this site. I mean, I've been familiar with it, but in Magicians of the Gods, I'd highly recommend, again, anybody who finds this kind of stuff interesting, to check out Graham's books. He's a brilliant writer, and lots of visual aids too. Lots of fun pictures for people too. Like if you need pictures in your books, right? But no, it was a great book. I love Magicians. I loved Fingerprints back. I've read that as well. Fingerprints had some more woo stuff in it about 2012 and whatnot. But this revolved around Göbekli Tepe. But he talked about many different ancient sites, and it's just an awesome collection of this narrative that there was some lost group of people. He doesn't dig into the whole giant meme, which is unfortunate because it's pervasive throughout this, and I feel like it's important to. There's another guy named Hugh Newman who does do this. Everyone wants to check out some of his interviews and videos. Göbekli Tepe is what it's called, the site in Turkey. But Hugh is a writer researcher. Here he is with Jim Vieira on the giant meme. So you can check out. He wrote a book recently, which I've yet to pick up. I meant to documenting this, and more specifically documenting the giant skeletons and remains found in the eastern U.S. Way back in the mid 1800s, even further back than that, in early 20th century, that were passed off as Indian bones, Indian skulls. They thought they were Native American burial sites, but Native American people weren't like fucking 7.5, 8 feet tall with long red hair. So it's Göbekli Tepe. Yeah, Tepe, I think. Yeah, that's what it is there, Mushroom. Yeah, this site here. Göbekli Tepe. Yeah. You have heard of this? Oh, yes. Minuteman. Yeah, I know Minuteman. I know of him, sorry. I know of him on YouTube. Yeah, he's not a fan of Graham. He still has. They both do good videos. He comes at it from the perspective that there's no woo, and he's a little more grounded and doesn't really buy Graham's theories. But Graham's a journalist communicating the stories, and Minuteman is an archaeologist. So both have done very good work on the site and documenting the site, and Graham raised different questions, I guess. Graham comes at it from a different perspective, let's say. But it's a very interesting site. Here's a guy holding his dick. Everyone plays with science and fact. Yeah, he does. Again, archaeology, they imply the inductive they use inductive reasoning. They use the scientific method to some degree, but it's still scholarly research. So it's not necessarily a science, I guess, and that's in part some of the problem with archaeology is that it's a scholarly discipline mainly. They sometimes come to conclusions about things without consulting with other like actual hard scientists like engineers. And then they kind of convince themselves that, you know, people maybe built something when maybe people literally were physically unable to build such a thing or be as precise as they thought people could be in regards to the Giza Plateau. So I've enjoyed some of the Minuteman's videos. He did a whole series critiquing Graham's Ancient Apocalypse, which I definitely take. There's some points in there that he made. He makes good points. But generally the narrative, Graham as a journalist collected a lot of stories from other cultures. He collected a lot of work from other archaeologists that are maybe outside of what you would consider the mainstream view of things. But, and so his job was to communicate these stories. He would speculate about things, but he wasn't necessarily stepping in at any point in time as an archaeologist. And he, in one of his critique videos of Ancient Apocalypse, was implying that Graham was a pseudo-archaeologist. And we just have to be very careful with that rhetoric because Graham is a journalist, not an archaeologist. He is a journalist who has consulted with archaeologists over the years and other disciplines to come to some of these, I wouldn't even say they're conclusions, but he just brought these ancient mysteries out into the forefront. And there's definitely something to be said. Obviously, Minuteman, these are people, he was someone working on the ground, on a side. I don't know what he's specialized in within archaeology. Part of the problem with a lot of these disciplines, I've just seen anecdotally, is, and you'll find this with a lot of disciplines now in academia, is hyperspecialization. So we became very, very, very hyper-specialized into certain areas, and then there isn't a lot of interplay and communication between these disciplines even. Like in finding interdisciplinary conversation is even more difficult to come by. So it's, so you've got all these people in archaeology essentially who have worked in these little areas of the world, and they're so focused on their little area, there isn't a lot of communication, maybe bringing together common themes that they found, and or they've been led to believe that there isn't this idea, that there isn't this connecting civilization. When someone who's a journalist who's studying all the stories might bring something different to the table, his perspective is going to be very different. If you're someone who's only ever studied and looked at Göbekli Tepe, and someone says, oh, well, that's the site of the gods, and the gods maybe were this other group of people that were wandering around the planet, touching all these other civilizations, you can say, no, that's not right. These are metaphysical beings. It has nothing to do, but it's, again, that perspective is what they may lack. And it's just tempering the hubris a little bit, and I find Graham definitely gets into the woo a bit. Minuteman, there's a bit of dogma there, a little bit of hubris, I think, a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of ignorance too, but that's what we all struggle with. And I think that was the only thing that I saw with him. And I just disagreed with his perspective generally, I think, on Graham's Netflix documentary series, Ancient Apocalypse. Again, I think Graham is touching on personally. Now, listen, I'm not a fucking archaeologist. I'm not a journalist. I'm a philosopher. I deal with schizo concepts like metaphysics and epistemology and ethics and stuff. But I like out there things too, right? But in regards to this topic, I think there is absolutely something going on. There's a mountain, kind of similar to what I meme about here with like UFOs and stuff, and the abduction phenomena. There's just a mountain of anecdotal evidence pointing to the fact that there's something going on. And to suggest it's hallucination is just irresponsible and fucking delusional, I would argue. I think it's just statistically just very unlikely. So similarly, kind of to this phenomena here, there is definitely some similar. It's beyond comprehension actually when you look at it really. how similar some of these cultures are, how similar the stories are. Stories of the gods, these giant people. And in some of these cultures too, how seriously these ancient people were trying to communicate these concepts. And that, there was a group of Inuit people, right, in northern North America, who had this story, and I can't quite remember the fucking group in particular, but they were very adamant that there was literally a group of people, and you find this among a lot of Native American cultures, who seem to have been very grounded people, where they're adamant, like, no, like, there were people that came down, that landed here. Like, these weren't metaphysical gods, although they have stories of them doing metaphysical things, and they have other stories of more metaphysical type gods, but they have stories of these physical people that came down and literally interacted with them. And they still to this day dress up like these people. They have a name for some of these people. Like the Hopi have names for, like, the Anunnaki is what they call them, which is very similar to the Anunnaki, right, in Mesopotamia. But this group of Inuit people literally told them that these structures that they still make to this day were inspired by the structures built by these godlike people that landed and communicated with them. So, anyway, it's it's at the end of the day too. I mean, it's just connecting the dots here. And I would bet, from looking at this myself, although my opinion of this objectively isn't worth a whole lot, but just from what I've seen, it seems fairly obvious that we're dealing with a genuine mystery. And I would take it probably a step further than that after kind of looking and reading through Mesopotamian history the last couple of years, that in some of these cultures, it's explicitly displayed who some of these people may have even been. And the fact you have these stories across the globe is just, it's beyond a coincidence. What we're dealing with is we all just haven't gotten together and sat around a round table and really shared notes properly yet. People have been too cordoned off in their little sections of wherever they're working, and they haven't really pulled back enough. And it's a problem of hyper-specialization. Randall Carlson, who's a guy I respect deeply, a great teacher, he spoke about this extensively as well, that this problem of hyper-specialization, and that we're too cordoned off in these little corners, and we need to desperately take all this information that we've gathered and synthesize it. It's why with AI, I'm excited, because if we get to AGI, which might be a horrifying thing, but if it's not, it could create this opportunity to have this truly kind of objective opinion on things for us, because up until this point, we've only really had, like, other humans looking at stuff. And it just would be very interesting to have some other intelligence look at the whole thing and be like, holy fuck, guys. You didn't notice that these giant people were living here before you? It's all over the fucking place. What have you guys been doing? Wake the fuck up. It's everywhere. It's all on the walls, right? They're everywhere. Like, you got to wake up. Anyway, interesting shit. Ghanaian Padang, old as fuck. Might be 27,000 years old. Base of the pyramid, quite a feat. No fucking way. I'm not going to say no fucking way. Somebody fucking clearly built it. It doesn't need to be little green men either. It could be big tall men, right? With big dongs, right? Swinging them around. That's what they're doing in Göbekli Tepe, I guess. Maybe that's how they buried the fucking place. Just put it in the dirt. Fuck. I don't know. The shit is deep. I'll be back on tomorrow night to maybe continue some of these discussions. There's another great talk here that Ben did with this guy who does the after school animations I fucking love on YouTube. Did a great talk about evidence of advanced ancient technology. Ben gets into the vases he's been analyzing that show some pretty obvious signs of some kind of fairly advanced group of people. And when I say fairly advanced, I mean they look almost 3D fucking printed. So, and that's with some aerospace engineers involved analyzing them, right? Like hard science. So, and everybody, thank you for coming around and hanging out. Appreciate it. Good talking with everybody again. I will talk to everybody maybe tomorrow night. And until then, I gotta cue up the fucking song. I'm gonna queue up a different song. Where's the other song? I got fucking these songs here, Divinormous, you've gladly shared here. Let's do this one. Peace, everybody.
Screaming through the digits all night. Jim Russell, he's guiding the light.